All right, guys. Michael here again for another candidate interview with Miss Marie Manning, running for the Alabama State School Board. As always, we're going to give just a minute for folks to jump on. So if you're watching this down the road, then you can skip on ahead. I'm actually going to throw a 4-minute clock on the screen, and that'll give us a countdown so you can tell when you want to fast forward. So I will give you a quick little spiel. May 24th. I've talked to a lot of people that still aren't aware. The primaries on May 24th, that is your chance to vote. Basically, the short version is anybody in Etowah County that you're going to vote for in that primary, that is the election for them. If they make it through, they'll be the only name on the ballot come voting time. So that's why we've focused on getting the state representatives, the county commissioners, our school board reps. We've got the sheriffs coming in later this week. But guys, May 24th, it is not just another primary. It is the election for these folks. So Marie, thanks for joining me. We'll give a few minutes for some folks to jump on. I see a few. Hey, as you guys are on, can you let me know? Give me a thumbs up that the audio is good. Just throw a comment in there. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great.
All right. It sounds like you've had a pretty busy morning so far. You went over to Etowah
I went to the council meeting over there, and it was very interesting.
All right.
The mayor and the council were taking care of issues.
Gotcha. Thank you for joining us. We'll really get rolling here in just a second, and get into who you are and your thoughts on our education system, and what you want to go down to, deal with in Montgomery. So as I've told some of you guys, number one, a huge appreciation and thanks to all of you that are willing to put your name out there, willing to serve the community, and a special level of thanks and gratitude to those willing to go spend time in Montgomery and deal with the fun down there. I've only had a little bit of a toe dip into the world of politics, and it gives me a whole nother level of respect for you guys. So
it can be fun.
It can be, and especially if you can make things happen and affect change, and contribute. But guys, okay, Danny Starnes always coming through solid. Thank you. Audio is fine. That's great. The other thing I want to hit on before we really get rolling, I've said it over and over and over again. Leadership is one of the core principles that we've been talking about, and that is definitely troubling leadership or lack of leadership is an issue we've talked about now for 2 years here in Etowah County. But guys, we cannot forget as voters that ultimately we are the leaders of our own county. As voters, when we go to the polls and we vote, that's our opportunity to demonstrate and lead. We can't sit around and blame elected officials for everything if we don't get out and vote for them. They are only as good as the people that put them there. And if we are complacent, like I have been, I'm throwing spears at myself. I have the whole time. Then we've really got nobody to blame but ourselves. And so, we've got to pay a little bit of attention. We've got to get a little bit more involved and get things right, so that our community can be what we want it to be. With that said, if you do want to learn more, I have tried to make it easier. You go to advancedetowah.com, click on the election 22, who's running. We've got the candidate profiles on there. Go check that out. I'm linking up these interviews, linking up the roundtables that we've done. Everybody's answered our questions. I've linked up to their website, social media, all that kind of stuff. I get it. It is hard. It is time consuming. We are all insanely busy, especially right now. I don't know if you got any kids or grandkids or anybody that's going through graduation season right now or all of the end of year stuff, but man, it has been this is an insane time of year. Honestly, it kind of stinks that May 24th is now, because it's so much harder to get people's attention.
Well, and that's true. And yes, I do have a few that are involved. I try to make the St. Clair County programs that are going
Gotcha.
on that school board.
All right. Well, let's jump into it, and we'll talk education. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be fun. I am learning along with you guys. I'm trying to get educated, and a lot of y'all probably know a lot more than I do. So let me throw your name up there. So again, thank you, Marie Manning, running for the Alabama State School Board. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know you all of you are extremely busy right now, and I know you got to get out of here as quick as we can. So we'll jump through. I want to take just a quick second and just give you an opportunity to kind of tell folks who you are outside of politics. Just kind of the minute and a half, quick blurb on who you are, what your background is. I know if you guys go read her bio, that's all provided on the web. You've been around, you've done some things, so we probably could go for a while talking about all that kind of stuff. So just give me what are the highlights? What do you want folks to know?
Well, the highlights are I grew up in Crossville, Alabama, and I was the daughter of a farmer, the oldest child of 7 children, and I learned right away that I did not want farming to be my way of life, and I learned early that I wanted to be a teacher. So I went to Jacksonville State University when I graduated, got my degree, went for an interview that afternoon, and got a job teaching in Talladega County. I taught there 4 years, married a young man from St. Clair County. Mm-hmm. He and I had a little girl, and when she was 7.5 months old, he passed away. Mm. And so I've experienced the single mom fact that a lot of folks have to experience today. And then I went to, I married a guy who was a member of the county commission in St. Clair County, and moved to Pell City. Okay. And that was 5 years after my husband had passed. And he was on the county commission at that time, so I had an early introduction to running campaigns.
God bless you.
I know. And when you have a child at home, that makes it a little harder. But he mostly ran his campaigns. And then I came to teaching in Pell City. I was a library media specialist there after being a teacher. Left there in 93 and went to Asheville High School as the assistant principal. Then the superintendent called and said the board wants you to go to Asheville Middle as the principal. All right. So I did. And then I got a lot of encouragement to run for superintendent of schools, and I did. And I was elected, took a system that was really in financial trouble. When I talked to Montgomery, they said, we probably would be in to take over your system. And so they worked with me, and we did fine. And over $11 million was added to the general fund unreserved budget while I was there for 4 years. And so kind of had some abilities to make some tough decisions. Gotcha.
All right. So real quick, because Advanced Etowah was born out of the whole rendering plant issue, and I want to touch on it very briefly, but I know folks will kind of ask and want to know, and you are not, you don't live in Etowah County. You're a St. Clair County resident. But the rendering plant, kind of what was your take on what you saw from St. Clair County, and thoughts on that. And again, I don't want to turn this into a big rendering plant conversation because I really want to hit education. But go ahead. What do you?
Well, at night, I usually sit down and read the news. Now, the news might be Facebook, and there was a Facebook page there, the opposition page. And in reading that and in reading the news, because our newspaper carried it too, I got an introduction to what that was. But I also had been familiar with the rendering plant up in the northern part of the state where
Okay.
some of my folks lived. And so my husband, who was on who chairs the commission there now, my husband and I had a conversation, and we talked about how it would affect people in our county. It would affect our folks. We have a school at Steele. I'm on the school board now.
Right.
We have we have residents that live there, and that's close.
Yeah.
That's very close.
Oh yeah.
And so we talked about that, and as we were talking, we talked about having a resolution and
Gotcha.
sending it to your attorneys to
Okay.
oppose that, and the county commission did, because our county commission believes, as most do, that what's good for one place is good for the other, and the rendering plant was not good for St. Clair.
Well, good. Well, thank you. So I hope, guys, that gets the rendering plant discussion out of the way. Again, the rendering plant, as I've said many times, symptom of the underlying problem, which is why we're sitting here today and having these discussions about what are the underlying issues and underlying problems. So I'm going to change up the format a little bit from what we've done with some of the other candidates because, quite honestly, as a state school board, your role and you're different than a state representative or a mayor or something like that. And so I really want to niche down into the education, which we've talked extensively about the importance of education as we talk about business development, business growth, workforce development, all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of us that we kind of go through our day-to-day life and don't really quite understand how important. Obviously, we want our kids to be educated, and most of us look at it from how does the education system impact my kids and their ability to have a good future. But there is certainly an aspect of it as a community in what does an education system do? What role does it play in how businesses either develop internally or how do you attract outside businesses? So we'll try and stick to that. So the first thing I'd like to start with is explain to me, what does the state school board, what is the role of the Alabama State School Board? Educate me on that if you don't mind.
Actually, the state school board is a policy-making board.
Okay.
The state school board does not build schools. They do not give raises. They do not do any infrastructure. Now, there's some areas of grants that the state school board puts out, but those are handled in the state board office, not by the state school board. What you usually see the state school board doing is choosing the curriculum for the kids. And it's not done by just the 8 people that are sitting on that board. It's done it's called the course of study, Alabama Course of Study.
Okay.
And that course of study is made up, the committee is made up of several individuals, some appointed by the governor, some appointed by the state superintendent, some appointed by the local school systems or recommended, and then they choose those. The state school board then has all these committee meetings. I know because I chaired one of those courses of study.
Okay.
And we had people from the Department of Education that sat on that. We had individuals in the field who worked in that field who were on that committee. And we went through the things that we want to make sure Alabama students are taught. And those items that we think they should be taught, we want to make sure they're relevant to the student's future. And so developing the curriculum is one thing that
Okay.
the state school board does. Another thing the state school board does now, and the legislature has kind of tweaked how that's done, the textbooks are chosen. A list is chosen by the state school board, and the state school board does do that. The textbooks that are chosen are then given a list given to the local school boards, and the local school boards can adopt a book that's on that list. At one time, that was a huge list. Now, the state school board has drilled down and made sure that the standards in those textbooks match the standards in our Alabama course of study.
Okay.
And that we're not teaching what California thinks is good, and we're not teaching what New York thinks is good. We're teaching.
Odd that you would pick those two states.
Oddly. Imagine that. But that's a
Okay.
couple of the main things
Okay.
that they do.
Well, so the very structure of our government around here, a lot of our discussion has been, the number of municipalities that we have, the boards that we have, and the makeup of the boards, and all that kind of stuff. But it's a very equal representation, not just in race, but in qualification and all of that kind of stuff on the various boards. That's kind of been what we've talked about with government structure, but I guess what you're talking about, I would ask, and given your background as an educator, which I think is, I don't know, maybe I'm going to go out on a limb, and maybe somebody's going to get mad at me for saying this, but for both you and, anybody that I think is really running for a state school board position tends to have a pretty good depth of experience in the actual thing you're doing, vice, well, yeah, I'm just a business owner running to, as a representative or something like that. But what do you think it's structured well? Do you like, is there anything that you think might work better with the way things are at the state school board, to what you're talking about with curriculum development? What are your kind of thoughts on that? I mean, the answer may be, hey, it works great. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to learn, so what are your thoughts?
I do think that structure is good. I do also realize that if you look at the district, the 8 counties that District 6 covers, that's a huge amount of people to represent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just District 6. It's all of those districts are larger than any congressional district or any representative district.
Okay.
Any of those. But because so much of a school system is determined locally, we serve as a liaison,
Gotcha.
you may say, between the legislature, the public, and the local boards. Because we like to see local boards make their own decisions, because that's where the rubber meets the road,
Okay.
in that community.
Okay.
But now we do have, the state board does have guidelines that you often have to follow.
Right.
And when the governor said, we're shut down in Alabama, we did not have the authority to come in and say, and I will speak to St. Clair County Schools, I'm on that board.
Right.
We did not have the authority to come in and say, well, St. Clair County is not going to do that. We're going to have school every day, because the governor had shut it down. Now, the governor chairs the State Board of Education. The governor doesn't always come, but most of the times that I've been there, this governor has been at the table.
Okay.
Not for the work sessions.
Gotcha.
She comes to the meetings.
Okay. So talking through again, the business aspects, workforce development, a lot of we've heard over and over again, we need jobs in Etowah County. The reality is, and I hope people understand, we don't need jobs in Etowah County. We have something in the realm of 2,000 to 3,000 open jobs. What we need is jobs that pay more. We need businesses in here that pay more. because of the nature of the business. Not I'm not getting on to the businesses because you don't pay enough. We need to attract industries that will raise the wage. And obviously back to education is a huge impact on that. What are your thoughts on the way Alabama, so our education system in Alabama and the curriculum and the guidance that we're getting? What are your thoughts on, are we on the right track to prepare students to attract those kind of businesses, to develop the workforce of the future? That's a pretty generic question, I think, pretty general, but I hope that makes some sense. And what are your thoughts on are we doing good? Do we need to do better? What needs to change? What do we need to be thinking about? As we look at the future, and the fact that the future is now changing every 6 months as opposed to every 10 years.
Really. Going back to the rendering plant,
Mm-hmm.
and you were talking about jobs, I'm sure it would have provided a lot of jobs, but are they the kind of jobs that your community wants for the quality of life they want? Now, I grew up in a farm family,
Mm-hmm.
and so my dad farmed.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much as he knew to do. Didn't have the opportunity to learn anything else. It was a good job at that time because he reared a large family on it. In St. Clair County, farming is our number one economic driver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not putting down farms. I love them.
Oh, no. And this is the rendering plant has never been, that was never about agriculture. That was never about, that was about the fact that, you also wouldn't want to, plow over half of downtown Gadsden to turn into a cornfield.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit well.
Make sense. But one of the things, several things, probably about 8 years ago, the legislature started, and it may be more than 8 years ago, started putting a lot of money into workforce development.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did that, some of that money funneled down through the Department of Education through to the local schools. And we were able to write grants to get new programs into our school system.
Okay.
For workforce development. Most of the community colleges, and right now St. Clair partners with Gadsden State, and you may not know, but community colleges have attendance zones, just like school systems have attendance zones. And but everything east of 231 in St. Clair County is considered Gadsden States. Well, we have a career tech center in that part of the county. So we're able to partner with them, and they do some on-campus EMS dual enrollment for us. The legislature has awarded free tuition and fees and textbooks to students who are able to take those courses.
Okay.
What does that do for us? It increases the workforce in our county. Our EDC, our commission, and Jefferson State Community College, which is in the other side of our county, did a study. And they learned what were the jobs that you need. What are the jobs that you need at your industry, at your business? We learned that one of the biggest jobs that they needed to fill was in the healthcare industry.
Okay.
Another one was in the manufacturing industry. And manufacturing is not smokestacks and hot rooms.
Absolutely.
Manufacturing is
highly technical.
Hey,
and I would encourage anybody, just because I'm kind of a tech geek. If you go look at Tesla and the discussions they're having on what they're doing and innovation, if you hear in interviews, Elon Musk says that the manufacturing of the car is the commodity that he's selling, not the car itself. It's a pretty interesting thing, but yeah, highly technical.
Highly technical. We also learned, though, that the construction industry, and we, like you, have a lot of construction that's going on in our counties right now, and welders were so important. So what community colleges did was then they used that money, and the largest amount of it went to them. They used that money to provide training in those areas at night for those who were maybe not a student but needed the certificate, and in the daytime for our dual enrollment students. And it's really helped. We had some students leave our school system, and I'm sure the same thing happened here, and went out of state, unfortunately, but that's where that particular job was. We had started a program of networking and started making $80,000 a year. He was making more than his high school teacher that was teaching that course, and that was not a dual enrollment course. That was
Wow.
a high school course. And so the legislature has done that. The State Department of Education has been really focused on workforce development and career tech instruction. I know we recently started a new culinary, because that was one area in St. Clair, Birmingham area that really needed good culinary training. And every student that has come out of there, most of them, let me put it that way, most of them have been able to get high-paying jobs in Perdido Beach, down in Birmingham, a
Gotcha.
lot of areas. So I think do I think the State Department's headed out in the right way? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because we're meeting not just the academic needs of students, but we're meeting the career needs of students. Every school has a career coach, or every school system has one,
Okay.
who works with the students to help them do the interviewing,
Okay.
do all those kind of things.
So it's interesting, and I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is it's a good thing that it sounds like we've got an education system that's focused on the student, which makes sense. But I'm also hearing that we're doing things that are preparing people and giving them skill sets, and like the culinary, well, I imagine they can't make a huge living as a top chef in steel, or even coming to Gadsden, so they're moving down. You listed down to the beach, other areas, Birmingham. Same with somebody that is getting the career tech, and then having to go out of state. And I know that's also been a common. That's a common conversation that you hear, and I've heard, especially in a lot of the minority community that you talk to. The opportunities are out of the area. So, what are your thoughts on how do we? And maybe there's not much you can do from the state school board besides just keep doing what you're doing or what is going on. But what are your thoughts on how do we get it so we can retain? So we produce these skilled folks. How do we keep them here? How do we develop a business environment where maybe they take those skill sets and build their own businesses, or we recruit stuff in? What are your thoughts on that? How do we keep our kids here and continue and build a community, so that when we're all parent or all grandparents, we don't have to drive to other states to go visit our grandkids?
Well, that's a great idea. I wouldn't want to have to do that. One of the things that we often see with some of those, and some jobs are so uniquely beneficial in certain areas.
Right.
And if a child wants to do that, then that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
They go to Birmingham,
Absolutely.
They can always live with us in our county because
Yeah.
we're close. You're close.
Yeah.
But
That's still a long commute.
from Birmingham to here. Get on this campaign trail. I'll tell you about a long commute. But they come back. They can eventually come back because they've got that skill set. Now, economic development councils in every council in every county, and I'm sure you all have one too. I know they have them in most of the counties that I've traveled in. They're the ones that we look to work with our citizens and to say, here's some good businesses, but let's make sure that the businesses we recruit and the industries we recruit got twisted there. That those are industries and businesses that we want to be our neighbors. And so that's the work,
Mm-hmm.
of the Economic Development Council. And as superintendent and as a school board member, we've worked with economic development. It takes everybody working together, and it'll take a while before we all are able to work in our home county.
Yeah.
But some of us wanted to leave,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some students just want to branch out and go to Atlanta.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I'm a guy. I was born in South Carolina. I've met my wife. I joke about the fact that I dragged her around on active duty for 10.5 years in the Navy. We've lived all over the country, and there's a lot of benefit to that. But I also get, the frustration of people that are kind of born and raised here. They want to keep the family here, and the kids that want to stay here, but they just can't because. Yeah, I mean, we can joke about the commute to Birmingham, but I mean, legitimately, an hour in the car one way is not, that's not the ideal. Not ideal at all. Yeah. Well, especially when you become a parent and you're trying to make it back to coach, coach a soccer team, or, you want to do all those other things, that are important, as you grow older. So that's kind of and a lot of that comes down to we've got to build an environment that attracts the businesses that are here that provide good wages. How do we grow those? How do we attract and the answer may not always be how do we get Google in here? How do we get Amazon in here? There's a lot of other opportunity. And you talk about welding, and I mean, there's a ton of opportunity to earn good incomes.
Sometimes students don't realize that they like a particular career path until they take a class.
Well,
and then they're nailed to it once they.
Well, let's touch on that. Now, this one's kind of, I think, stretching a little bit, but there's been some interesting. So one of the issues that we've got right now is first responder recruiting and retention. In particular, the city of Gadsden is about to. I mean, they're having to close firehouses because of the manning issues. They're about to drop below an advanced life saving capability. And those are things that I don't care where you live. I want to be able to pick up the phone when the worst happens. I want to know that I've got a chance. Or that my loved one's got a chance. So, as you talk about exposing kids, I've heard a few folks talk about exposing kids to, whether it's law enforcement or firefighting or EMS services at a younger age. What are your thoughts on that and implementing that into curriculum and what that looks like?
Well, I learned as a library media specialist that all 7th and 8th grade boys wanted to be a professional football player.
Mm.
And then when they started looking at how many folks were capable of becoming a professional football player, then they kind of decided they might need another job. And they would start looking at jobs that paid a certain amount as we were doing this research. So 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, maybe even down 5th, 6th, that's a good place to start talking about careers and introducing them to that. One of the things that our career technical program is talking about doing from the State Department of Education is to start introducing that at those lower grade levels. And I think that's critical.
Right.
Because then they start thinking about it. Some of them don't even realize. Now, as a 7th and 8th grader, we had a lot that wanted to be a fireman.
Oh, yeah.
We had a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And they grew out of that. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Because we need them.
Yeah.
Badly.
Yes. We desperately.
Why do you think there's nobody going into the field or staying?
Well, so anecdotally, there's always a joke, and I've heard it through a career in the military. Oh, our military and first responders don't get paid enough. One of the first foundational issues that you've got here is particularly in the city of Gadsden. starting pay for a Gadsden firefighter is $10.38. You know, so there's no, but you know, and I can speak again from a military perspective. No one does that job for the money, but at the same time, you want the peace of mind that you can provide a decent life for your family, that you can provide a decent life for yourself. You know, and so really, I mean, we've seen in the military, from what I have personally experienced and seen, shortage of fighter pilots, which you would think is crazy that we'd have a shortage of fighter pilots. But they're throwing huge money at trying to retain fighter pilots, and they're not able to retain. So you do hit that threshold where the money isn't, and so then the culture becomes, and that's one of the big things that I think we're struggling with in the military. I don't know in our local law enforcement and local fire department, some of that leadership standpoint. I don't think there's any one silver bullet in all of that. I definitely the education piece and exposure. I'm a product of, I was in JROTC in high school, and I do come from a military family. And so being able, but I was never exposed to being a firefighter or being and we could go down the road of what Mike Rowe preaches about, the workforce, the world I grew up in, and it was go to college. Well, going to be a firefighter, there's a lot of honor, and that's a great opportunity, and you got to expose kids and get them to think about that. So I think it's a conglomerate of a lot of different things, that impact. But at the end of the day, I think what probably trumps all is that sense of fulfillment, the sense of honor, the not that you want everybody to sit around and thank you, but at least be appreciated, and feel, and I know, nationwide now, particularly on the law enforcement side of things, you've got to, it's a tough world, and you mentioned states like California, and particularly, you go to states like Washington and stuff like that. We're blessed in Alabama that that's not nearly as big of an issue right now in our culture. But yeah, that's my long answer to my question that you turned around and flipped on me. But that's one of those areas that I feel like I've got at least a little bit of insight. And it is, but a lot of people do take it for granted. And we're having the same issue in the military, and people don't understand how vulnerable that can make us, whether it's as a local society. If you don't have basic law enforcement and basic life-saving capability, it's a foundational principle,
Well, and maybe not so much the firefighters, but law enforcement have really been beaten up by the media, and that makes it tough for it to be attractive to young people.
Yep.
And so it's just important that we appreciate what we have and give students a chance to see what we have.
There you go, guys. Sorry if we're having a little bit of audio issue there. But okay, well, let's close this off. I think we've covered most of the stuff that I wanted to cover, and so I'll leave a generic question as the subject matter expert on the education system, and as the person that's stepping up and wanting to go do this job. What are the things that you want people to know about? What's your what do you want people to know and understand as they look at who to vote for the state school board? So,
well, first of all, I want to encourage folks to just vote. That it bothers me that we might be at a position in our country where folks just think that doesn't count. my vote doesn't count. And we've seen in St. Clair County, we've seen more than one election be won by one vote. I can remember 2 exactly. So first of all, just vote for somebody. But really, I want you to vote for me because I really think that I have proven myself over my career in education. I have proven myself over my career in civic leadership and in church leadership. And I just want people to know that I'm a doer. I don't just sit and watch. I'm a doer. If you were able to see the back of my card, you would see all the opportunities that I have taken that were offered to me, and I'm thankful for those. So having the experience as a superintendent of schools and having the experience on a policy-making board of education already, I think that's valuable. And I just would appreciate your vote.
Okay. Well, guys, thank y'all so much for those of y'all that have joined us. Apologies if we had some audio issues with tweaking, but hopefully you could hear everything. I know I'm probably a bit louder, but that's just the nature of me talking. So I tend to be a little bit louder. Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to come in here and talk with me. Guys, I'll reiterate, get out there and vote May 24th, the primaries. That is, in essence, the election. That is the vote. So find some time next Tuesday, actually, right? To get out there. And guys, again, advanceetowah.com. Go to the election 22 tab, and you can find the candidate profiles, and she's got more information, more bio information, links to other places she is on the internet, so Marie, good luck. Again, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being willing to serve. It does take a special kind of person to want to throw themselves out there and get into politics. I will say to you and your husband, thank you to St. Clair County for the support that you gave us as a county through the rendering plant. It has been an odd couple of years around here.
It has, and it has in education. And I sometimes I hear folks complain about what they think's happening, but if you followed me to the schools and in the classrooms, you would be blown away by what students are learning and how much more advanced it is than what I learned. So I'm just very pleased with a lot of what's going on inside the school. Everybody loves their local school as a general rule, and I see a lot of that happening.
All right. Well, guys, thank you. If you haven't seen, we will be back with Miss Yother here in a couple hours, 2:00. So I hope you can join me for that as well. And if you can, and you've got that much time to kill on a day and you're at work, I'd like to know what your job is, because I wouldn't mind finding it. But no, seriously, guys, thank you so much. If you've got further questions, drop them down in the comments. And we'll make sure we either get them over to her for some answers, or she can jump in and answer it up. So thank you, guys. We will talk to y'all on the next one. Oh, I've got her phone number. Yep, your phone number is all on the website. So all that information is there. If you've got questions,
Feel free to call.
Yep. Everybody has said reach out to them, so definitely don't hesitate, and I've tried to make it as easy as possible to do so. So, guys, thank y'all so much. We will